Hi, I'm Bybreen and welcome back to another episode of Soul Stirring Astrology, where I give you my textured take on the world of astrology. Well, on Friday, December the 3rd, there's a full moon that takes place in Gemini. And so, although it's an air full moon, actually it's surrounded by so much fire, because we have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, the North Node, as well as Uranus, all in fire signs. So this is about inspiration, dynamism, as well as looking at your intuition, living proudly, boldly in the world. And so because it's a full moon, it's the completion of one cycle to move into another. And so with all of this fire, there is this real sense of new beginnings and inspiration and moving forward in quite a powerful way. We've got the North Node there as well, and so the North Node is about the future direction, and the North Node is in Leo, and Leo is associated with royalty. And so today, Monday, November the 27th, we've had this epochal announcement in terms of Harry is going to marry Meghan, and the wedding takes place next spring, so that's spring 2018. And so this is a transformative moment in the world, but also within Britain. And so actually there's quite a bit of resonance that's taking place with this announcement today and the way the planets are aligned as we move towards this full moon. So we have Saturn, and Saturn has broken away from the trine that it formed with Uranus. And so when you're looking at Saturn and Uranus, you're looking at the old guard, the way that you used to do things, as well as this sense of governance and authority figures and what that means to you, together with Uranus. And so when they came together, it was a case of, how are you going to show the world your uniqueness? How are you going to do it now that Saturn is at 29 degrees of Sagittarius? So it's just about to leave Sagittarius to go into one of its homes on the 20th of December. And so Saturn has been in Sagittarius for about 2.5 years. So it's time to look back. And what did you learn? What ground has been covered? What areas of transformation have taken place? And if we then bring forward this announcement that's been made today, we have Harry, who could be representing the old guard. And the news that's come out today is this separation again from Uranus, a very unique set of circumstances that Britain certainly hasn't seen in the past. And so what's happening here is that we've got this sense of the narrative that is taking place. And what is the new narrative? What is this journey of self-discovery that this announcement, this wonderful announcement, what is it going to do to the psyche of the British nation? And this is what's happening with regards to the placement of the planets. We have Saturn, which is about the old way of doing things. It's just parted ways with Uranus, which is about the new way of doing things. Currently, we have Mercury, and it's forming a conjunction with Saturn. So here again, it's about questioning the old ways of doing things. What did you learn? What has been learnt as we're going through this transformation and this cycle? What is going on in your personal psyche that needs to shift, that needs to change? What is going on in the collective psyche, i.e. the British psyche, and where have we seen it questioned or challenged or invigorated before? So if we actually go back in time, because this news obviously has been spread right around the world, so the media comes into play here. And it reminds me of this seminal book called Policing the Crisis. It was written back in 1978. And it's a sociological text. It's quite a tome in terms of this exploration of the British psyche and using the media to explore it. And so Policing the Crisis was really this analysis of the state, the law, and social order, social relationships. And the construct of the mugger, the black mugger, was used as a way to explore the psyche. And so what we're seeing here is another reflection of how the media can penetrate our lives in the way that it does. But actually, has the narrative changed? And I think it's going to be a fascinating time to see how this news of Harry and Meghan is being reported. How is it being distributed? Who's contributing to the narrative? And so when we're looking at the way that the planets are aligned, we're looking at this transformation of narrative. It's the end of a cycle. We've got this full moon, end of a cycle. It's in Gemini. Now, Gemini is about communication. It's about, you know, the media, and it's the moon there. So the moon is about feelings and emotions and how they're stirred. And there's this kind of flightiness that's taking place with this moon placement. And this can be reflected in terms of we're going to have disparate voices contributing from the media and beyond. And what is it saying about the emotional journey of the British nation? But also on a personal level, what is it saying about your own emotional transformation, your own emotional journey? And working out which bits of your journey you want to be sharing with the world, because you've got this alignment that's taking place, as I said, with Saturn and Uranus. And so Mercury is retrograde. And so Mercury forming the conjunction with Saturn, it's calling on you to start reflecting deeply. There's a sense of you might be feeling a bit cautious, uncertain, and what can be kind of dredged up is sort of negative feelings that you may have around what's going on in your life, but also what's going on in society. And so with this 3-week journey of Mercury moving through Sagittarius, as it's forming this conjunction with Saturn, it's the invitation as to, well, okay, you might be feeling negative, but what did you learn? How can you bring your personal values, your personal philosophy to bear witness to and to guide you towards this new narrative? How are you going to do that? What is that story that you want to tell? And given that we've got Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Scorpio, and Scorpio is about bringing up from the surface all those hidden, buried feelings, anxiety, fears, insecurities, jealousies, power plays. And so this wonderful news of Harry and Meghan is a way that we can start exploring some of these issues, both collectively within Britain, but also on a personal level. So we're seeing some tension building up because we've got Pluto, and Pluto is in Capricorn. And so where you've got Pluto in Capricorn, and it's also forming a square, sorry, not a square, it's forming a quincunx with the North Node in Leo. So we've got this placement whereby this new direction, North Node in Leo, touching on royalty, touching on this sense of this is a new beginning, this is a really dynamic time, but it's forming a quincunx with Pluto, and Pluto is about authority. Pluto is very much about power, and it's in Capricorn, the sign that Saturn is about to move into, and the sign that Saturn rules. So there's this tension that could be building up in terms of Pluto wants to cut away from the old ways of doing things, but it's in Capricorn, and so there's that power struggle there. And then we've got this North Node, and the North Node in Leo, which is saying it's time to break free, it's time to move forward. And how do we reconcile these two positions? And no doubt we're going to see this played out in the media, because we've got this Jupiter here, and Jupiter in Scorpio is saying, well, actually, we're going to have a wide spectrum of public opinion. That's what Jupiter is ruling here. It's the dissemination of public opinion. And how does all of that get fed into the national narrative? And so when you bring it down onto a personal level, what is your narrative that you need to work out as you go back and look at the journey of Saturn in Sagittarius? Because here it was very much the invitation, step into your power. Because when Saturn moves into a Capricorn, from December the 20th, it will be there for 2.5 years. Then immediately after that, it moves into the other sign it rules, which is Aquarius. So for the next 5 years, Saturn is going to demand that you step into your authority. And so now is the time for you to be reviewing, revising, thinking about what has happened. So Mercury is at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, and it's going retrograde to 13 degrees of Sagittarius. And so it's coming alongside Saturn. So over the last 2 years, when Saturn was first at 13 degrees of Sagittarius, it's a time to review in your life what changes have taken place in your world over the last 2 years. What are the transformative things that have happened? Because particularly over this year, we've had this Saturn, and Saturn was trining Uranus. What is unique about you and your story that you now need to pay close attention to, so you can start transmitting it to the world, just in the way that we have seen this wonderful news between Harry and Meghan, and their relationship started with Saturn in Sagittarius. And while, you know, we've had this wonderful trine between Saturn and Uranus, they are breaking the mold. They have broken the mold. They are on this wonderful journey of self-discovery as a couple, as well as the nation. And I took a look at their individual charts. And so Harry was born on September the 15th, 1984, and Meghan was born on August the 4th, 1981. And both of them have key planets in Libra. So when you're looking at marriage for a woman, we look at where Jupiter is in our chart. And for a man, he looks at where Venus is in his chart. And both of them have these significant planets. Her Jupiter is in Libra, and his Venus is in Libra. It's not forming a conjunction, certainly not a tight one. There's quite a wide conjunction by about maybe 9-10 degrees that separate them, but they're in the same home. And so Venus rules Libra. So this is a relationship that has been built on, this is speculation, but just looking at it astrologically, this is a relationship that has been built on love and harmony and being sociable and social justice as well. You know, Libra is very much about balancing the scales, you know, balancing the scales in life. And so with Jupiter, with Meghan's Jupiter in Libra, it's about looking at the type of man who has contributed to the social justice narrative. So we could look at the Invictus Games, which is about equality for wounded soldiers, as well as Harry's participation in the dialogue and the discussion and the transformation of how we talk about mental health. And then in terms of Venus and Libra, with regards to Meghan, I mean, she's a politically astute woman who's involved in social justice in terms of the UN. So there's this wonderful match in terms of these two people. And when you have Venus and Jupiter, and they're in Libra, this is the kind of signature for weddings and marriages that are formed on the basis of harmony and a deep, profound love. So the astrological alignment for the two of them, naturally they would come together, and they have, and here we have this wonderful news. And so in terms of your own life, you know, we're looking at this sense of Libra. We're looking at the sense of justice and fair play. And how does that show up in your own life? And how could that feed into your own personal narrative? And so there we have it in terms of this episode, and it brings me to the quote of the day, which is by Joseph Campbell. And what he said is this: we have to let go of the life that we planned in order for the life that is waiting for us to show up. And what that means is that we need to shed our old skins, and so that we can grow a new one. And so this full moon that's taking place in Gemini on December the 3rd is about what skin do you need to shed in order for the new one to grow, and so that you can start disseminating this right around your personal world, sharing your narrative in the way. And as I said, because we have got Mercury, and Mercury is there with Saturn, it's about thinking about, you know, the narrative, going back over what has taken place over the last 2 years, for you to start constructing and letting go of. And so when you have Mercury and Saturn, it could also be a time when you're letting go of a relationship or a person in your life that actually is very much your old narrative. You know, you're constructing this new narrative. And so if you're finding that you're in this sense of, you know, the private struggle around something, well, struggle no more. It's a time of releasing and replenishing with this new narrative. And so it brings me to the question of the day. So as you're examining this sense of your narrative, which aspects or aspect of your narrative that needs to be shed? You know, you're growing a new skin. So what is the aspect of your narrative that needs to be shed in order for you to step into your new skin? So, as always, beautiful people, put your comments, questions, queries in the comment box below. You know, I always love to connect with you. Thank you again for everybody that supports me and my channel. And yeah, think about that narrative, your personal narrative. And then let's all bask in this kind of collective narrative that is being played out because of the news that has come with Harry and Meghan. And let's see how the narrative, and particularly the narrative around race relations in the UK, how that is kind of borne out because of the news, or whether we're able to see transformations that have taken place, and also never to forget the amount of work that still needs to be done to bring harmony and equality into our lives. And so then, I will see you again on the next episode. Take care, beautiful people, and I will see you soon. Bye.